far as certification that the meeting law requirements have been met, as far as the information that was online and delivered to the individuals. Let's go with a roll call of members. If you could start, please, Kevin.
Adams here.
Lyon here.
And Wayland here. Look forward to the agenda. We've got a sent out agenda that came with your packet. Is there a motion to approve the 16-item agenda?
I so move.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor of our agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Those in opposition, no. Seeing that there's no opposition, the agenda is approved. Next, we'll continue on to the approval of the May 6th regular meeting minutes. Is there questions or comments? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the May 6th meeting?
Make motion.
Moved by Dunn,
I second.
second by Lyon. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor of approval of the May 6th regular meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Those in opposition, no. Then the minutes are approved. Public comment, time will start now with 15 minutes of public comment. The call-in number is 715-538-1894 for any public comment on information for this morning's meeting. The Great River Road update with Gene Lisinski will not be occurring today due to Gene is not in attendance. With that,
Kevin, she
Yep.
did provide me an update, and I can read down her list quick.
thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. We'll have the update on the Great River Road.
Jean wasn't able to attend. She had an appointment in Milwaukee. And here's her update for Great River Road. We're getting a lot of Wisconsin Great River Road visitor guide requests. Work has begun on our GEM grant. Tank Bridge on Great River State Trail is closed due to a fire that occurred on Thursday, May 15th, 2026. The bridge is a total loss and there is no current reroute available. WISDOT is moving forward with the revised construction plan for the bridge on Highway 35 and Holman and Trempealeau, keeping traffic flowing during repairs. One lane closed. Decision was made for economic impact to the communities and emergency services. Stop and go lights will be used. Project is slated to start 2027. 250th American Celebration has a dedicated page, wisvetsmuseum.com, national website, America250.org. Wisconsin Great River Road will be using a GEM grant to further develop messaging in 2026 that will highlight all American adventures. Trempealeau County Dairy Breakfast, Saturday, June 14th at the Kruger Family Farm in Oliva. And the Trempealeau County Fair will be July 16th through the 20th in Galesville.
Thank you, Jack. Is there any questions at all that we could provide with information for anyone? If not, we'll proceed to line item 8, the organizational change update, Economic Development and Tourism / Communications Director, Communications Department / Communications Strategic Plan with Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll start out and then I'm going to introduce Jess Wilds and she'll take over a little bit to talk with you. But to give you an update, Dave Carlson has officially retired. And so now we are in the next phase of looking at rehiring for that position. The position has changed some through personnel bargaining. In discussions with that committee, have looked at how we looked at communications overall and previously had hired Jess through Innovative Public Advisors, their company, to review staffing through the communications current, and looked at how we might strengthen our communications, and they provided a report to us as well as a suggestion for reorganization. We're in that process of looking at how we would reorganize by bringing in a director of communications rather than economic development tourism position under Dave. Dave's position will be underneath, or as a part of the director of communications position. So that's not really going to change, except they will have oversight on the two other employees that are with our communications area. And as a part of our contracting with Innovative Public Advisors, then we ask them to put a strategic plan together for us for communications. So we have a 3-year strategic plan for our communications, so that we're not only looking at recording meetings and our TV station and getting out messaging to that group of individuals, but we're also broadening it to internal communications as well, and through newsletters, through social media, to entire population as well. So, and how we're increasing that. So as a part of implementing that and getting that started, we brought in Jess to be our interim person for Dave, and this interim person for communications director. So Jess is sitting in that role right now, and we will interview next week for the position. We have several candidates that we'll be bringing in on that interview team. Renee will be a voice for the Personnel Bargaining Committee and PTED, as well as Lori Severson, who has a big background in communications, so she'll give input as well. So anyway, I'll hand it over to Jess. If maybe you want to give a little bit of update on how things are going with the interim process.
Appreciate the inclusion in the meeting today and the introduction. Becky asked me to join because it's possible that some of the members of the committee haven't, maybe seen the communications plan or any of the presentations done to date. We've been working together since about January on all these projects, and started, like Becky said, with a staffing assessment, really go through and see what roles are in the organization. How does it make sense maybe to combine them into a department that's really centralized to serve both your internal groups, like your staff in different departments, and assist in internal communications as well as external communications. So we saw a lot of those skill sets in the WTCO team, in Dave and others, and have now put together a little bit different organizational chart. I think will work really well for your long-term future. Innovative Public Advisors is also working on a strategic plan for Trempealeau County, and the feedback that we've been getting from participants of surveys and within in-person workshops and such is just that communication is key. Communication really drives everything that you do. So being intentional on it, in whether it's tourism, economic development, or anything that you're working on, is so important. So it's really great to see Trempealeau County and Becky and everybody invest in it. I've been working so far from afar. I am located in West Bend, but I've come to Trempealeau County a couple times so far since starting the interim position in early May. I was just there last week for a couple days, and working primarily with Danielle on the team to go through some of the changes in her role, which will be more of a communications coordinator position. We'll still be keeping, of course, the WTCO station and video production still plays a huge role in communications for your organization, but maybe less emphasis on it, while we can also expand to have more digital communication, social media, press releases, all of those things. So with Dave now departing, we had a couple of weeks of overlap. That was great. It was helpful to sort of be brought up to speed on some of the grants, get on some calls with Filch and Barnett and River City Travel, and kind of get all that summer promotion going, so that, we aren't missing any beats while he's gone. But to also just really help transition the team into what's this future going to look like. So I guess my goal so far has been really to try to get things started, starting with social media. Let's get a shared calendar together. Let's start thinking about tourism and the tourism Facebook page as who's the audience and what kind of messages do they want. And then same with like the Trempealeau County government page, and really focusing on that type of content where it's a little bit broader, really providing updates and information on all the different departments and things going on, but also highlighting economic development. See sort of the future of moving forward, especially with the video component, is featuring businesses, opportunities to come and be a part of this great community. So happy to answer any questions you have about the work that we're doing. Excited to be interviewing next week for some great candidates. And so, yeah, let me know what questions you have.
I don't really have a question. I think Jess and I have been working closely together too, in kind of a consideration now and thinking about UW Extension had an opening as well for their community development position. And so that will be, that individual, they just made an offer to an individual that has accepted the position, but that will not start until the beginning of August. So he's going to attend a housing workshop that's happening in the state. And so in mid June or July, I can't remember which, but anyway, he'll start up officially in August. And so anyway, that's another component that Jess and I'm hoping to connect with you on and talk to you a little bit more too, and how some of the things some of the things that Dave was doing and how we can, work with the extension person, how that's going to all mesh together.
A question for you, Rebecca.
Yeah, definitely.
Communications-wise, compared to the economic development, do you have a projected balance of percentage time allocated to economic development and communications? Is it a 50-50 split? What kind of idea, when people ask us, do we pass on that, the position moved from being 100% economic development, now it's at 70%? Is there any estimation that you'd have?
Well, the position, that's interesting. I guess Jess and I could take a look to kind of break down what Dave was doing. A lot of what he already did do was not necessarily, there's such a crossover between the two, but he did a lot of tourism pieces already. So because he was running the GEM grant, right? And he was putting together the visitor guide and things like that. So I wouldn't feel comfortable on saying a percentage. I think between this position and the extension position, we're going to have as much economic development or more, because the community development position that was through extension previously really wasn't used as a community development position. It was used to do state elections for training for clerks around the state, which that has now gone to the state rather than being a position through the county. And so that's where I think we're going to see probably a ramp up of additional economic development pieces, because we'll have that piece to coincide with this. Can I get back to you on a percentage?
I'm curious when we do a combination like that.
Yeah.
And you'll have a team.
And I'll congratulate you for getting the team approach where we have diversified individuals that can come from different areas and maybe different revenue sources when you're looking at the federal assistance, the state assistance as far as extension. But we want to make sure we maintain the economic development without brushing it underneath, saying, it's taken care of by this other position. Just trying to maintain a similar amount, because I think that is something that we do have to concentrate on, is making sure that when people ask us, hey, you're the second fastest growing county in Wisconsin, what are you doing to cultivate that? I think we need to say, hey, not only have we still have our economic development, now we're blending it with this extension.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to answer the questions. That's why I ask them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one way to talk about that as well is maybe sharing that the administrator, your county administrator, places a priority on economic development. I have a very strong background in that. And so I'm involved in that in a lot. And I'm looking at that as well. So I worked a lot with Dave on the position that we were at and where things should go, and driving a lot of that. And I think that's just to keep in mind as well when you're talking with people. I think we're in a better position than we have been. We're going to continue to grow that because we need to. Just as a point of talk, like, again, in my connections with my past relationships with developers, I was able to connect developers with the two housing groups out of Osseo and Trempealeau so that they're working with housing developers right now and hopefully getting those projects across the finish line so that we get a couple of housing projects going. So that's the kind of thing with economic development is bringing those types of conversations together. But so I think that's the broader pieces. I don't want people to worry that we're going to go backwards because we're actually going to expand on this in the conversations that we have because it's a priority for me too.
Thank you.
Quick question, if I could. I'm hoping the people who are contacting you, Kevin, are positive about economic development. And if they aren't, invite them to watch the meetings and stress. I mean, I think that if they watch the meetings, they will see that there has been a reminder of how important it is for Trumbull County to look at economic development to grow. So I would invite them, to use our new communications, our website. Take a look, invite them to watch the meetings. But it's interesting that you asked about the funding. I was curious too, so I'm assuming that the only funding that we're talking about is going to be through the Extension Office. Outside funding?
I'm not
Or
sure
like
what you mean.
federal funding?
Yeah, so nothing, we haven't changed any additional, there's no additional cost to what we're doing because we're just realigning the three positions. So that stays and probably it could be a little bit less with Dave retiring. But, yeah, and so that piece of the, again, extension, they get paid, we do bring in funds through the state, through UW for that position, but that hasn't changed either. It's just that what the focus of that position was in the past is a little changed as far as more as the emphasis on economic development. So that UW extension position will be able to be a partner in these conversations on housing and how we take that forward and broadband and childcare.
Thank you.
A question then, will that individual be invited to the PTED meetings?
Yeah, good question, because I was thinking about that this morning as
That
well.
would make sense.
I would think so as well. They have limited amount of time. They are split between two counties, so we're sharing that position between us and Clark County, but I think that would be valuable, even if they can attend virtually, or I'm sure to start out, meet everybody in person. But I really do feel, yes, that would be valuable for this committee to be giving input on how we grow our economic development outreach, yep.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we will proceed to item number 9. And also, Jessica, welcome. I don't know if you had an official welcome from the committee, so
Thanks.
it's great to be working with talented people. We enjoy that. And additional talented
you.
individual we'll look at now is Park Report with Jack A.
Well, thanks for the kind words, Kevin.
It was a great segue, Jack. We had to get that in there.
All right. Gonna really try to always show this going forward because I put a little work into these memos. It helps me keep things straight, and I think it's just good as a guide as I go through the stuff. We had we had our HG tree service revision on the lower loop. They did work on a total of 16 trees, removed 2, trimmed 14. Looks really good down there, and this is kind of the second step. We went through J&B Landscaping and Nursery, and then we didn't get to do the planting during the camp out like we initially wanted to, but Jamie Youngbauer reached out and wanted to have them back on a Wednesday, and they split the group. Half of them did some roadside work, and half of them came and planted trees. So we were still able to use the Whitehall sixth graders to get some trees planted, and we had a great time. We had conservation out there with us, and it was a group of about 30 kids. So we had, I think, a total of 96 conifers that got planted, 24 being from the tree and shrub sale, and then the 72 we got from J&B. We had 24 extra that conservation gave us. So 96 out there working on, we got mulch put by Independence high schoolers like that Friday. So they got mulched and planted right away, and we're probably, next step is looking at stakes and a little fence around all of them. And we've got a tank that Tom Schenk donated to us, and we're very grateful for that. 200-gallon fits right on our trailer. So we've got a plan on how we'll be taking care of the trees, and even if we can get half of them to stay alive, if we plant 96 out there, it's gonna look good in time. So that's kind of what we emphasized on the day of, was, hey, you guys get to see these trees grow with the park when you're going past them. So we had a good time with conservation, working on our intentional communication, like we've been talking about in the county, with our groundskeepers as well. And them and I have just a group text, so we communicate quite frequently. And then I'm trying to get them material deliveries, trying to pack as much stuff in my truck at one time so I don't have to make multiple runs to the park and save some time. So it's always kind of an ongoing process with them, and shelter rentals and communication with campers, campsites, and a lot with code right now, which health department got us an inspection. So we're working through that. They gave us a month to complete the items. And then there's some things that kind of slipped under the table with like previous Ashley events where we have to get in line when it comes to variances and special event fees. Kai starting at the health department, she's been a great help along with Eddie. And then there was some questions about the dump station this last meeting. After finding some stuff out, I didn't think it should be an item, so I put it on this report. But basically, we are charging more. Most campgrounds, county campgrounds, they are kind of using their dump station in line with the price of admission. So that's what you're paying for, type thing. We don't have that outlined in any way. So like our $10 is kind of for whoever actually does it. Looking on ways to possibly enforce that when we look into ordinances here. Been wanting to do that, and I should be getting to it soon. But that is what I found out about dump station stuff is $10 for non-campers, 10 to 15. In other counties surrounding us, that's all that they're charging is someone that isn't camping. So that $10 kind of does fall in line. And then to have a fee for independents to use our site is kind of out of the norm. County campgrounds are, affordable access for camping and to experience the outdoors rather than, a commercial campground where you're trying to maximize revenue. We got to think about our park promoting outdoor recreation, accessibility, and there's different things that a county has to look at compared to, a commercial campground that's always, focused on the bottom dollar.
Thank you for that, Jack. I think that makes sense. I think it clears up questions I have anyway about it.
Right. Well, that's what I was hoping for. The next thing is the rodeo. There was some influx with the ambulance being available for the date. And then there's band visas that they're trying to work through right now, which is hot topic federally. So I did get another date, and we've established like a 2-month increment and 30-day rules in this committee. 30 days before the event. They did submit an application for the June 14th, 31 days beforehand. And then they wanted a date change for the 28th. Now they're having problems with getting the bands. So now I just got the date change of June 22nd. So that's within the 30 days. So I wanted to, mention it to you guys and see what you thought between, we did establish these rules of, 2-month increment and 30 days is on the application just to kind of have enough time to let the proper people know, get the proper sign-offs. So either the 22nd or the 28th is what was proposed to me. So just wondering if there's any comments there.
Sounds like there's been a lot of difficulty with scheduling.
And has it been that they're trying to accommodate the crowd that shows up, or is it that they're trying to find an alternate location?
I wouldn't say it's an alternate location. I think it has a lot to do with the bands and getting the band visas. And those band members are typically, from what I heard from last year's events, they were coming from California and the long distances. And I think some of them were actually coming maybe from Mexico. So there's problems with the band visas. I'm not exactly sure what the details are right now. So I'm not going to pry too much into it because it's his job to,
Right.
provide
And
the info.
do we need to be concerned about it as a committee? Does it affect you at all as far as when he bounces around like that? Something we need to put down in paper?
It is a little frustrating because it happened all of last year, and that I was trying to establish some terms beforehand to try to
Right.
keep things clear, to try to get these dates more in line. But it's nothing that, if we have like a general time frame, like between the 22nd or the 28th, just wanted to bounce it off you guys and make sure it was okay to kind of keep communicating through that with their translator, Jenny.
And I have no problem, as long as it's not a problem for you, Jack.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Renee, any challenges at all? on changing?
No, I have no concerns, and it isn't conflicting with any other schedule at the park, so.
No, and the 14th, we were almost full campground-wise, so I'm almost glad it got pushed back, so.
Anybody else? Bob, anything as far as See, I don't have any problem as long as he's got a private event he's holding, as long as it doesn't screw up your schedule.
Right, and we're gonna get a significantly higher fee this year compared to last year, which is
Good
some
job.
extra revenue for the county. And brings people in, good event. I think everybody wins if we're able to do it.
I guess it just boils down to that he works around our schedule, we're not gonna work around his schedule.
Right, and that's what I was trying to kind of tell Jenny when she was offering that 22nd, was like, hey, we have these parameters that were set, like I need to know a month ahead of time, and we can't keep bouncing days around every event.
Yeah, cause didn't you, when you set up with them, like, exiting meeting last year, okay, these are the days that you wanted for 2025?
Sorta. We had in the spring when we started communications and we had that 2-month increment rule. I gave them, hey, if we start in May or June, like you can anticipate your events around these days, and it's up to you to, get me the information, get me when you want to have that first one so we know when the other two are going to take place. But there is a lot of things he's got to, get in line on his end, so.
It sounds like the ambulance thing really threw it off initially.
Yeah, and I don't know if he reached out to the Whitehall one, but it was the Arcadia one that wasn't available on that day. So that was something, I think Bo might have said, like, make sure he's reaching out to, all of the available services, so.
I would imagine it, revolves around your ambulance service, that what township you cover.
Oh, sure.
Town of Arcadia, which is.
It's gotta be
The
Arcadia,
city of Independence and the city of Arcadia are all covered by the Arcadia ambulance service.
right.
And we kept the ambulance busy at the rodeo this year in Arcadia, so I understand the concern on that from the Arcadia. We had a couple calls. Anything else on park report, Jack?
Just a thank you to the volunteers that Bob had out, David Grislowski, Greg Gamroth, and Richard Filla. They helped us out with some concrete pads, and Bob will, I think, be sending me a bill soon for labor. Labor costs, not labor costs, but the price of the tools, it's going to be labeled as labor for their work. And it was really nice, and we've got such a price reduction by doing this with volunteers, and they were just simple pads, and those guys were happy to come out to the park and do the work, so.
Independence Ready Mix donated the concrete.
So we took care of where we want to have a donation box, where we want to have an entrance sign, and then the anchoring pad that we need for the dock. So
It looked solid. I was impressed with the concrete work too, so
Yeah.
tell the guys, good job.
yep. And then we had the Lincoln Whitehall sixth graders, Lincoln Pioneers, and Independents all did work at the park. And yeah.
Cool too, that you got the students involved.
I don't know. I do actually, just one last thing for the park report, sorry. I did just get an email last night about Stoneworks. They want to do a new entrance sign. It's a company out of Holman. So I think I'm going to have this on the agenda next meeting. I was really happy with what, I had a meeting, been talking with them for a while, had a meeting with them this month, and they got me an update yesterday. And I'll present this, next meeting, but just wanted to briefly go over it. They are doing currently a sign for Perot State Park. They've been a company for only about a year and a half and would love to establish some new connections. And actually met them at the park conference I went to in the Dells in February, or was it in La Crosse this year? Oh no, it was in the Dells. But yeah, they were there, they were a vendor, and have loved all my conversations so far. They do a lot of boulder work, but they're willing to try something new with us, because I'd like to incorporate wood into the design. But this is the sign that they're doing for Perot, and it should be going in this week. And then this is what we're kind of somewhat thinking. It's still a proof, and we've got a month to figure out, what exactly we want on there. But park logo on the right, Trempealeau County on the left, and then it would be dual directional, so you can see it when you're incoming on both sides of the highway. But yeah, I'm not going to go over all of this stuff because I think we should have it on the agenda before we, do it formally. So
Looks like something good to develop at a future meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that should be it for the.
All right, we'll proceed to item 10, the park and outdoor recreation priorities. Jack, you're on the bill again.
Yep. We always had this park priorities, and then we had an outdoor recreation thing. I thought it's both my focus areas, so it's something I wanted to combine, help formalize a little bit more. I've been doing a lot of work in communications and thinking of research-wise on the water trail, and kind of trying to connect a few things together. The impact that this would have potentially on tourism, it's good. It's going to be a good thing to keep, looking into, and we just want to make sure we're doing it right. So I'm going to have a water trail update for you guys in a little bit, and then a lot of grant work, working through 4 of them. Knowles Nelson, still getting some kind of last communication stuff done with our grant contact, just some changes and corrections and whatnot that she wants to see. And then Conservation AIDS grant, we have some money for that canoe and kayak launch that will have, I think, $2,600. We were awarded back in 2023. So some of the dock was a lot more than that, but we can at least get some of it off. Urban forestry grant, we're 81% through our spending. I think we've got, 91 or $917 left to spend for 2025. So probably maybe get some trees that we think might be a good idea for the park in the fall, or we could continue on with our conifers on the other side of the road. And then snowmobile bridge and maintenance grants, just some reimbursement reporting. We'll find out if we got the project on County NN in July or August. And then been getting a lot of calls for shelters and campsite reservations. Our shelter's been rented almost every weekend since the beginning of May, and it's continued to get rent out all summer. So it's a great thing for us. I think we've got a few more this year than we have in the past. And then I'd say our campground is picking up as well. And there's a few things that are built into that. I'm very happy that we did our work with Pilch and Barnett and the SEO stuff and the keywords, because I do think that is making a difference when people are Googling camping in the area. We might be getting a few extras from Minnesota, it's looking like, that are searching this area and things to do, looking for a place to camp. I think Petrick Park's coming up on people's search histories more than it did in the past. And then got 48 posters put out around the county for the music series. I did have on the posters, a something, I had a misdate for the first event in Independence. I had on the posters it says the 14th, but it is the 10th. Spoke with Kayla in the library, and she's like, "Oh shoot!" So we're working through that change. But the posters, they're pretty nice. Have a QR code that goes to our events calendar. So I was able to input extra information that people wanted, like they're having food and activities, or someone's there sponsoring the event. A Lions Club is doing food, things like that can get put on to our events calendar. So I was able to input all that and then get those posters out. So they were made by Edge Graphics and kind of portrait view, kind of put those in high traffic areas around the county. And then park project coordination and meetings would be the last one on those priorities.
Any questions on the park and outdoor recreation priorities? I know that a couple of the local private places having music or having trouble with the weather that we ended up running into, that outdoor events had to be moved indoors. So I know that's a challenge always with the outdoor early in spring. So is that June 10th is what we're looking at on the first one?
Yeah, yep, and we'll work through, now that we've got this kind of new role with communications, I'd get what I want for the music series, or say like we've got 3 sites that we want posted for extra Ashley site revenue. And those are the type of things that I'll get out to Danielle, and she'll proof them for me and get them out on our Facebook and whatnot. So that's a big help to me as well too, because now I'm not having to do that, doing a good, social media post, because that does take some time. Being able to send that off is going to be nice for me.
So time and location for that June 10th event, I'm just trying to advertise it for
City
the people
Hall
when they
Park
broadcast.
in Independence.
There we go.
Sponsored by American Legion 186. So they're going to have a busy Saturday, and then Tuesday they'll be back on. So
Just
or
to get
Thursday?
word,
Yeah, Tuesday.
just to get word out, so they've got to tie them into place, because I know there's people that when they watch it, that's where they get their information. So I'm glad that you mentioned that part.
Yeah. The 10th. Yeah, Blondie Blues playing at 6:30 at City Hall Park.
And all are welcome and no cost.
Correct.
That's
Yep.
the big part is there's some people that no cost. I have all kinds of people from across the state that would come to Ashley for the Arts Music Festival because it was only $15, I think, when they started that. So
Yeah.
cost matters, I guess.
The initial idea was to, try to get some people that are in surrounding communities to another community and see some music, and just get the opportunity out there through radio and these posters. So, more people can experience, music in a park setting and enjoy the leisure opportunities for it. And we just wanted to focus on, like I said in the past, just the marketing, for right now. And that seems to work for us, and people like the opportunity, and we got, probably twice as much input this year than last.
Great to hear.
I just don't know how big these things are. Are there beverage or food vendors?
Some of them.
Okay.
It just depends on the community, and if who's ever sponsoring the event wants to bring stuff in. So like Strum had for their July 3rd thing with the fireworks, like they have a great surrounding area that fills their whole park shelter with activities, games, face painting. But Independence, it was a little bit more low key last year, and both things are okay. I think people enjoy just being outside.
All right, excellent. Any other comments? If not, we'll proceed to the Class Shelter Security Deposit Policy discussion with possible action involved.
Yeah, so this is the one, action item I had for today. It's kind of been a problem for us in our security deposit, in our books. And I don't know if it's just something that, if we have something that, like say someone reserves a shelter in February, and then we have the security deposit on CampSpot for $250, and that isn't till July, then we're having a problem kind of with that, keeping that straight in our books. So before Dave had left, we had talked a couple months ago about, looking into our security deposit policy, and I don't think we really have anything. So I wanted to get something on paper, put something down to kind of what we've done, and then also just establish a couple other rules to help, facilitate the process, because we are getting more shelter reservations, so we should maybe have something that's a little bit more formal. So I can read through this, and I guess every item is for discussion, so I can stop after kind of each item and just let me know if you guys have any concerns or questions about anything. Rental procedure, all class shelter reservations must be made by the phone to ensure clear communication of the rental terms and policies. Right now, there's nothing really that gets sent out to people directly when they reserve a shelter. So that was my thought, was we've got rules that people need to know when they're renting our shelter. So it might be worthwhile to do this, but it also might just be something that creates more of a headache.
I'm just wondering if people ever stop in the courthouse and inquire about that in person.
Yeah, they do. I probably get anywhere about 5 a year.
Would you accept
Yeah.
then a reservation? Yes, okay. Okay. So then you wouldn't want,
Or, yeah,
email
not
probably
by
gets to be cumbersome, is that what you're thinking?
Well, it's just nothing's really communicated, and the only time it would get communicated is if they call by phone.
Then there's a good back and forth, okay.
Yeah, if they have questions and whatnot. But we have, 1 to 2 every weekend, and sometimes they'll come in a couple days beforehand,
Could I make a suggestion here, maybe? If Jack would, you'd put together what you'd like to see. I think what Renee is saying is like, what would be best that would make it easier for you? And you put together the changes you'd like to see and then bring forward both, saying, this is what we have now, this is what I think would make it easier.
we don't have
and then-
anything now.
We don't have anything now? I
Not a-
would put
not a
together
policy.
your proposal then, and just
Right.
saying, this is my proposal, do you see any problems or changes? And I think bring that forward at the next meeting, does that?
That's kind of what this is.
It looks like you specifically state a lot of those things that we have to develop. The proposal recommends reducing it to $200.
Right, I just would like to go over this, and because it's something that I'm debating myself on, which I don't want to, create extra work, but I think we should have something that's a little bit more formal. But sometimes extra work has to be created to go down the right path. And like, we don't have a damage report. We've just kind of took pictures and took people's security deposits before without much communication. So that was one thing. And then the deposit amount, we're doing $250, which I think got approved when I first initially started, maybe a month or two in. We went from $200 to $250. So I was thinking about going back down to $200.
You never want to go down. There's too much damage that can occur that you're never going to come out of it. You never want to go down. I mean, otherwise, if you had a credit card on file, you've got something to go on. These people rent something, they demolish it, they're gone. So guess who's footing the bill?
Right, and I'd say that's a rare occurrence. From what I've seen, it's 1 to 2 times in a year where we might have someone that.
That's still 3 times too many.
Do you think it's a deterrent to some renters?
I think we had 200 before, and that would just keep things a little bit straighter, but it's not a huge deal if we got to stay at 250. And then this is our cancellation policy currently. This 50% refund.
Can I back up a little bit
Sure.
here? Should you be putting something in there, and maybe I'm being too detailed, but I'm wondering if that's what you want. I'm not sure if you're wanting suggestions from us as to details. Should it be spelled out as to how the security deposit is made? By cash? I don't know if you want to receive, I don't know. I don't know how are you receiving
Right
security
now,
deposits?
it's just a mix, and that's why we'll get checks, cash, people will randomly put them online.
But you have the ability to accept just about any form. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And that does make, things a little bit easier when it comes to communicating the process with people, because you only have to communicate when they've got questions.
Is this
we
going
have-
to be something shared with potential clients? potential renters, or is this just the policy?
Right now, no.
Oh,
but
okay, so
maybe
you're
going
just
forward.
setting up policy. Got it. Thank you.
Correct. Yep.
Basically, this is a day of no paper. You just keep a credit card on file, that eliminates your thing. Okay, they rent in February, they're gonna use it the 1st of June. You got a credit card on file, you let them know that isn't gonna be charged to their account till June 1st.
And yeah, that was kind of the big thing on this, was to try to keep things a little bit straighter, like the situation I was explaining with like somebody that rents the shelter for July and February. If everything's over the phone or stopping in office, then it's can be communicated with people that, hey, you're expected to pay within the 30-day thing. But then I'm worried about, people not paying and then me not noticing. But I think that's pretty easy for me to check on.
So question, I want to
'cause I
interrupt you,
do.
but pay within the 30-day thing. So they talk to you on January 1st, and they want to make a reservation for July 1st, they have to make that $250 deposit by January 30th? Is that what you're saying?
No, like 30 days before the rental date. So like, say they had a July and they wanted to book it in January, like I could put an admin hold in for them, hold the spot, and then it's expected that they pay within
30 days
30
before
days
July
before
1st.
whatever the date of their rental is.
And that's never been a problem? People backing out?
Well,
I'm
that's
just-
not a
I'm just wondering
huge
about
thing.
conflicts that
Sure.
somebody, and maybe you aren't getting that much business, maybe I'm totally off the wall here.
No.
Where you might have conflicts of more than one person wanting a date, and you're holding it administratively for one person. And
Yeah.
person number two might be willing to say, well, I want to make a deposit now.
Yep, that's the kind of, why I'm in limbo a little bit, just because it's like, we could just, not have a policy and keep communicating with people, or we could, have something that's super simple, 3 lines, and maybe we don't have this 30-day thing. But this was just to, with my work with Amy in fiscal, it's been a problem with these deposits and zeroing them out, because I have to send them back to people
So
6 days
explain that.
after,
I'm not
6
sure
months
what-
after the fact.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I'm sorry, I'm not following what the problem is with the deposits.
So, like the 250, say the deposit's made in February, the rental is in July. They pay $466.27 initially. And then after their rental, after I get confirmation from the groundskeepers, then I send them their security deposit back, and it's created a conflict.
Oh, I see, after the event, the security deposit, got it. Oh,
You've looked at other counties already and what they have in place for this?
Not this in particular.
Yeah, I think that would be,
Basically, you got the same thing when you rent an apartment. Same
spreadsheet.
principle.
I think it's a matter of developing a good spreadsheet.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
and
the thing is, I can see all this the spreadsheet is on CampSpot, administrative side.
Okay.
So like I can see all these rentals, get the information. It is just a click of a button. But it's, if you got a shelter rental every weekend and you got people putting them in at different times, like some rules just have to be established. So it is fine. I think there is some more, things to look at here. So I can maybe come back with something that's, more concrete, but I did want to get some opinions from you guys.
So you were talking about Amy and financial, is that Amy Bergerson?
Ferguson. Yep.
She seems like an organized person. Maybe she'd have some suggestions for you.
No, yeah, this came off
And maybe she doesn't have
suggestions
time,
from
Rebecca.
Amy
I don't know.
and Dave.
I think what we need to do with this is draw up an agreement, a lease agreement of what we expect of them and what we're gonna do for those people, so that you can have a list out, okay, you're responsible for this, you gotta be at a park at a certain time, you can only get in there, and you have this in writing, so that all you gotta do is email it the people a copy of these rules.
Yeah.
And in that, we expect this to be as clean or if not better than when you left and stuff like that, so that you get your security deposit back. Your security deposit will be paid within 10 days after the event.
And the Lair Park over with the shelter has a very detailed and formal one. I had to do it for the last 4 years. And to the, who empties the garbage cans? I mean, that's a
Really?
specific.
Yeah, we don't want that much.
Well, I know you don't want that.
We do have like,
You can choose not to.
make sure it gets out to the dumpster. That's
Right.
basically
And
all ours.
Whatever you want, I just giving you an example of one that locally does do it.
Uh-huh.
But it just, the expectations are made, so when you sign it, but I've never had it where you don't have to put the deposit down and reserve the date. For me, when I reserve the date on all mine, I have to have the deposit available.
Right, and yeah, that's kind of why I was limbo
You
with
bet.
this, just because I feel like, I don't think that's gonna be worth tackling that, like, somebody that wants to put, like you're saying, put it in and get it all done with, like, it just creates something that's an extra thing, but on the other hand, I'd like to help Amy out and the treasurer's office and what we're submitting from her camp spot. Got both things kind of in mind.
Yeah, because you got a lot of great ideas on the sheet here, so if you want to summarize it down the road, we definitely would be able to approve it. The idea of the $5 fee for changes, and I apologize for jumping further ahead, is that seem reasonable to you, or is that something that happens a lot?
This right here is what we currently have in camp spot. I thought it would just be good to include it when it comes to our cancellation and refund stuff. And I don't know if this got approved in the past or not. This is our current cancellation and refund policy.
So do you have a lot of date changes, is all I was checking?
Yes, we do. And that $5 fee has not, I've not been putting that on.
Okay. You're just not comfortable with adding it, is what you're saying?
No, I mean, I haven't, like, I've had our cancellation, but I've looked at our cancellation policy, but I've never, connected the dot to do that in camp spot yet, and maybe I'll have
Okay.
to start. Because we do get a few date changes, and it's easy to kind of put them in there. But to to add a $5 thing every time, it's just another step, but it's something I can do.
Well, it's not a priority on my part. I just, whatever you think is necessary. We're not going to micromanage your game plan. We'll offer policy suggestions, but we're not
Yeah.
going to micromanage your activities.
So, yeah. So are we kind of out on you think the 30 days of the rental date? Do we think that's gonna be too hard to enforce? I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna formalize this for next meeting.
You mean locking it in?
Yeah, like having it all, being able to pay, all in one. Do we still wanna have it that way? Or do I wanna have it that way? Just like your suggestions there.
I would suggest that if someone calls and wants to rent something, well, okay, go ahead and give us your financial information, we'll hold it. But I think they should give you the credit card information right off the bat, and that's an administrative hold. And then you have a separate policy for cancellation policy, then guy number 2 knows that they can't rent that spot because it's already reserved. That's my thought.
We could do a hold, and then there's no fee when we put it in a hold on my side.
I would worry about well, no, never mind. Never mind.
All right. I'll kind of review this and come up with something that's concrete, simple, easy to read.
Sure.
Like Kevin made a comment too, maybe get a copy of the agreement from Blair. You got something to go on.
Yeah.
If you need them,
Look,
Or other counties. I think
Yeah,
other counties
anything you
will be
wanna
the first
use.
thing I'm gonna wanna look at. Maybe get a couple see what they do, see what our ideas are here, and merge something together. Yeah, that should be it for that, since we'll
All right.
bring it back next meeting.
Excellent, thank you, Jack. Number 12, item agenda, natural play area update, as far as what's going on with that. And Jack, you get to continue again.
Yep. So we'll have a meeting on June 9th with Ashley representatives. Been trying to get that on the calendar for a while, so I'm excited to talk with a couple of them. Mainly just going to be a initial meeting, talk about the natural play area and kind of what we've got going on in Trempealeau County. Then Becky will be with me in that meeting, so we should have a good discussion with them.
Will there be hopes of maybe grants or contributions out of that meeting?
We'll see. This is just the first initial talking phase.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Eventually down the road, I mean, that's a hope, but we just kind of want to introduce the project to them. I kind of let them know that I submitted the grant and we got a letter of support from them. So it's all things that I think we want to have a, established partnership. We're in kind of agreement on, Ashley's been a huge part in the growth of this county. So great partner to try to get with, so. And then site planning and maintenance, grass link's pretty long. Tom and who's the other one? Mark Brave did some, volunteer mowing in the past and might keep them in mind. I don't think they mind doing that. From the conversations I've had with them, they'd like to get out there and help them with the park. So it's probably how I'll look to do that. And then we've got that parking agreement with Ashley that'll probably continue this year. We'll just have to put a rope of somewhat to protect those trees, and then all those trees will probably be staked and fenced beforehand. So I was thinking just some type of like yellow barricade rope, but there might be some other ideas floating around, so we'll get that handled. But they should be protected, and if people were to damage a tree in the parking lot, I'm gonna have to take pictures and maybe figure something out if something like that were to happen. Yeah. And then Phil did give me an update to the project timeline and our cost estimate. So we have those printouts that'll be kind of put on our boards for our July or June 9th meeting with Ashley. So that'll be good to have those updates for that meeting. And then just some Knowles Nelson grant stuff. We had our resolutions approved by county board. And then we got signature from John, the chair, and got that sent over to our grant contact, Grace Michelson's. And like I said, just working through some other corrections with her.
Any questions from committee members? Rebecca, any questions at all? All right, the next agenda item is the Trempealeau River Water Trail project update, complete with pictures and a very impressive looking dock.
All right, so right now, I think from what I've been conversating people with is between the signage, the other partners that we have with Whitehall Lions and, the chambers being interested in this type of thing, we have to go about a timeline of when we want to start getting going on some of this. So to have a soft launch date of fall of this year, in coordination with wanting to work with Steve with WHTL and do a video with him. That's like 60 seconds that can go with our tourism stuff and we have available. So we'd like to get that underway. so we can incorporate these fall colors and the Trempealeau River Water Trail and have full readiness by spring 2026. So there's a few things that we're kind of thinking of on the back end, and as we're going through the research phase of things. One thing I thought of, and after recent communications the last few days, is shuttle service versus like kiosk rentals. Kiosk rentals are going to be kind of favoring that over looking into shuttle service the last few days, just because it's something that the county can look to establish, something like Instapaddle, and then provide that opportunity to the municipalities and clubs that are along the trail. I think that's easier to facilitate and collaborate about than trying to get something big off the ground like a shuttle service. But not to say that that's not an awesome opportunity for somebody to do, is get like some type of short bus and a trailer on the back, and have 10 to 12 kayaks and be able to drop you off point A, point B, and get you back to where you came from. So I think both ideas eventually I think are going to be needed, and what I've seen from the water trail. But a lot of this stuff you commonly see friends of groups associated with, and it's hard to get off the ground. But when people are excited about something, it's easier to kind of do that, and you see a lot of friends of groups attached with water activities and lakes and that sort of thing. So just a few things to think about. Like I said, I did have like a future agenda item for like a shuttle service presentation. I might incorporate some kiosk rental information. I think with what I think would fit in and what we can collaborate with, like Elk Rod and Gun, City of Whitehall and the Lions, organizations like that. And even like places like Arcadia, where they've got a lot of influx going on, and a new community development manager, Michael, who's going through like a lot of different things. So people need somewhat of a direction or have an opportunity with me spending some time on this, just to give them the opportunity and see if they're interested.
One way maybe to speed it up a little bit, I know that there's groups that already have the trailers for hauling the canoes and hauling the kayaks.
Right.
And located in Arcadia, that would be the Boy Scouts. They have that. Mm-hmm. And as a couple of things suggested for like a service weekend to test drive it. And I don't know who to contact right now. It used to be Dr. Fetch, but I could find out and see what availability of just trying it for a weekend for shuttle. And the run could be from Petrick. In the past, we've done it from Petrick down to the Trempealeau or the Arcadia landing between the bridges. That's where the canoe landing was there. So
Yeah.
if I run across that group, I could propose that and talk that if that's something that would work, just to try to get it off the ground. That if somebody's already got the equipment, that
Right,
would be a
yeah,
benefit.
I'm just looking for someone to, take hold of the opportunity. Like I've talked to Daryl with Elk Rod and Gun, and I guess his son was interested last spring, and I don't know what's going on now with that, but there is people, that already have that stuff.
Right.
To where it came up enough in conversation to where I don't know if the county is going to be directly involved in something like this, but I want to encourage, someone to do this, and then, briefly communicate them with initially when they're starting stuff up, and tell them about what we got going on. And let them know about some of the big days that I've heard about with people going down the river.
I guess if you're looking for some influence on what people think of it, to have you or somebody go down to Petrick Park the 4th of July, because that's the biggest one-day event
Yep.
on the river. Canoeing. There's probably between 50 and 100 people that make a trip from, say, Independence all the way to Petrick Park.
Yep.
In one day.
And
What do they do for the transport? They organize it themselves, the transport of the,
Different guys, either
Yeah.
throw it in the back of a truck, or
Right.
I know three different people from Independence got six and eight racked canoe trailers that they use for transporting them down there.
And I know my hometown, the way they promote it is a race, canoe race. And they always have the Pecatonic canoe races. And at times there would be up to 200 to 250 canoes for the race. It wasn't a very big athletic event. It was more of a recreational activity. But it got everybody a chance to see the river. We sure appreciate it. And it died out about 15 years ago, and they're bringing it back this year because they said that nobody was paying attention to the river unless you're on it. And that's huge.
That's a great idea to promote something like this and get it off the ground.
That was one of the things they did here before the landing got closed. When the initial landing was at Club 186.
Right.
That was the first one. And then afterwards, that property got sold, so then you couldn't use that landing anymore. But otherwise, during Independence Days, it was a race from 186 to Independence.
Yeah.
And I think they could make it in about 45 minutes.
That's a whole lot quicker than ours. Ours, it was 2.5 hours.
But I
It
mean,
was
the winning
huge.
team would be about 45 minutes. And just by talking to some of these younger guys now, that's what they want to incorporate is a regular canoe race again. Because what they would do is they would come up and, take it down the Trempealeau River and then come up the Elk Creek and then end up like behind Old Creamery Beauty Shop or Old Mill Beauty Shop down in there. So you had enough room for spectators and stuff like that.
Is there a
Nice, yeah.
landing there?
There's like a rock dam, but it's just a shallow, where you can just beach a canoe.
Yeah.
Behind or,
Below the dam, right?
yeah, below the dam.
Below
Okay.
the dam, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
Because
that,
there is
yeah.
a formal landing right in Four Seasons Park.
Oh, okay,
But what
yeah.
they wanted to do is they got it closer to town so people could say watch from the bridge or
Yeah.
something like that as a spectator part.
Yeah.
What'd you guys use for a finish line then? Did you have anything very elaborate?
Police tape.
What we had was the fire department they'd spray up in the air, so when you hit it, you knew you went underneath the crossing line, and everybody would sit there and watch, and as you got done, you had to put your paddle down, absorb the water.
very cool.
It would turn out to be a big deal.
Yeah.
It was right in front of my mom's house, so we always got a chance to watch it. And I'm hoping that it's that good again this time when they bring it back. Tough to lose stuff like that, and I wish we could get back to, even though 186 isn't there anymore,
Yeah, but they built a new landing there now.
I
On the
know.
other side of the
Yeah, on the
highway?
other side, yeah.
Yep.
I
So,
haven't seen it, but there's a good signage there.
Yeah.
Very good signage.
Maybe I could get
Ideas.
to put my programming hat back on from my previous position with Chippewa Falls and putting something like this out.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had the thought of like a race like that, and I think they might do something like very informal, independence.
Well,
People
years
my
ago,
age.
on the pond, they had an obstacle course.
Uh-huh.
That's what they did, is, they had 4 different places where you had to just circle it and then, make the landing, but it was just more of an obstacle course
Okay.
versus a regular canoe race.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so
And I think it's kind of safe to say the more partnering you get, it's going to create more attendance,
more
more
buzz
interest.
too. Yep. All right. This is the Maji dock. It went in. We've got some high water right now with all the rain that we've gotten recently. But I do think eventually it does need to get an 8-foot add-on to the gangway, which is the walkway that you see there. And then they could take these poles out. They're anchored into the sand right now, but it does need to get out further because when we have, say, no rain and people will beach where it is now, where you can see those poles. So it's fine for the time being while we have higher water. But I do think we need to, unfortunately have to do another add-on and maybe bring Brian back out and I can propose something on that. But we did pay the $2,200 because he did do the work he was asked and did do a good job with the materials he was given. but it does need to be, further out. And not exactly sure why that didn't get established last fall when we were communicating with Majadoc and communicating with Brian, and Buzz and Bob took
Didn't
time
know
out of
why
their
last fall.
schedule, to do a pre-meeting together. So, tried to go through all those details, but not everything works out as planned. It's about how you adapt. So, I think what my plan was to let it sit while we got high water, and then reevaluate it in a month or two, and probably think about how we get Brian back out and get another approval item for kind of like maybe an all incorporating phase 2, where we try to get a walkway established from the road that's going down in that loop.
Question for you, Jack.
Yep.
What time is the ribbon cutting event scheduled for the 25th?
Believe 10 a.m. with the Whitehall Lions, but I'd have to double check that. Let me send that out to the committee,
Okay, because we can
because I
advertise
got a
that.
flyer from Ellen.
You bet, because we could advertise that for you if we know the time.
Yeah. And I'm gonna probably go there and say a few words. Talk about the water trail for 2 to 3 minutes and answer questions. So, yeah, I mean, I had Ellen with Russ in on May 28th and went through Richland County Tourism, what they're doing with their group, and great meeting with them. Ellen's very knowledgeable and has a lot of good ideas, and been able to bounce things off her. I'm glad I was actually able to meet with her in my office, because we were able to have good, clear communication. And they're kind of going through the same process as I am with that Easy Doc they're putting in on June 25th. So we'll go ahead and send that flyer out to you guys, and feel free to attend if you're not busy. But yeah, like Richland, they had told me last summer they went out to, I don't know, it was the city of Richland or the county, but it was a tourism, I think somewhat of a collaboration. But they had a guy that they hired out for $3,000 that did the stipend pay, that did all that work, and then came back with the reporting. So basically, they worked through this with one guy, and that's something that we've had questions on. How are we gonna process that? And we had another good meeting when I attended Associated Conservation Clubs of Trempealeau County, their last meeting in May. One of them had mentioned, like, why don't you do the thing that you did for the snowmobile trails when it comes to reporting water conditions on the radio? And then that's your advisory piece. So like if you had something like that with, one person, be a little easier to facilitate better intentional communication, and then you would have someone that, is passionate about it and would get to get paid, so it'd be worth their while. And then I'd go on the radio potentially after severe weather or something that's established, probably a mix of both, and then could do the advisory that way.
I think that's a great idea. The more information, the better.
Yeah, yep. So you just got to keep your ears open. There's a lot of good ideas out there. Kind of hard to keep them all straight, so I try to note everything down when I go to these meetings or talk to these people. And a lot of people have a lot of really good ideas, so it's just important to keep your ears open. Then I'd really like to, like I said, do the video with Steve and during fall color time, and then work with BC Enterprise to get some cheap signage. If we were to put, mile markers on the bridges, there might be some DOT communication. I don't know if it's going to be DOT or somebody else, but we'd want to put, as you're going down the river, something on the side that isn't going to affect the roadway. So as they're coming down the bridge. So I think that conversation should get going now. So we can at least maybe move forward with the signage and then, right now clean up and communications with that stuff. There's a lot of volunteer based, and I liked, Ellen's idea with Richland County, or city. I think it's county tourism, so, with their one individual. And then working on like a logo. I've got kind of like a sketch down. I think it should go to a graphic designer. And then we have something that fits into our color scheme that Pilch and Barnett kind of presented to us, and make sure everything kind of flows.
I have a quick question. When you talked to Steve Tedhope of WHTL, that's who you're talking about?
Yep.
Did he talk about an interview with you at all? And I don't, maybe,
They have getting outdoors, and, Dave left this last time, and he'd do that, I don't know if it's the first Thursday of every month or the
Every
last.
Thursday. Every Thursday, the great that outdoor program.
Right, I know, but our time slot was like the first or last Thursday of the month. So,
WHTL just did an interview that they put on their Facebook page. They interviewed Travis Mossman. I don't know if you knew that, Becky. I just caught it real quickly. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go back and watch it. So I don't know if they have, specific slots when they do those kinds of things,
Right.
but that'd be great if they'd interview you.
yeah, I've been on there once. I think I was on there last October. And I enjoyed going
Good.
on there and talking, and I think I did all right, but,
I did, oh, sorry.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, I did talk to Butch already because Dave's spot was gonna be, so I had already signed up for it for the next upcoming one, but, so that we could talk economic development and everything too, but certainly we can get Jack on there after, or before that one, or whatever too, it doesn't matter.
That's great. It's so great to hear that WHTL is wanting to.
Right.
Well, and which they should, but they seem to be ambitious about that.
And they're kind of our sponsor or collaborator in the music series too, so their logo's on that, and great, to have that in our backyard, have that ability to market through radio. Everyone's listens to the radio, so it's one of the best ways to market. All right. But yeah, just wanted to give everyone an update on the water trail, because I have been spending a lot of time on that. But yeah, that should be good for that.
All right. With that, we'll continue in a little bit of discussion as far as future agenda items. Benefits of a Trempealeau River shuttle service presentation, campsite shelter rental revenue / expenses update. Anything that specific we want to gear for?
Yeah, I'd say the only thing with that shuttle service is it might be more of a versus kayak kiosk rentals. So I might look a little bit into both and kind of put that into a presentation for you guys. And then like I said, we were getting a lot more campsite and shelter rentals, I think, than previous years. So wanted to give you guys an update. You've kind of stated that in the past that you want to hear about that. So those are the two things that,
So those are for the
Good
July
update
meeting
committee.
planned, Jack?
yeah.
All right.
Yep. And then maybe something formal for the entrance signage and the cloth shelter, so we'll just have,
Excellent.
yeah.
Is it possible that we have our August meeting out at the park?
September is what we
I
established.
mean, I would just look in, August is kind of nice and warm. It's just before Ashley Days. In that, instead of having a September, move it up to August.
Are you looking to feed the mosquitoes out there is what you're thinking, Bob, that we
The
should?
mosquitoes ain't up that early.
No, I hope not.
But I mean, I'm just, a thing, usually September, it's starting to get a little cool and, rainy season kind of.
Yeah.
We do have heat in the shelter now, though.
Good
Yeah,
deal.
but I mean, if people want to walk around and, look at things.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Would that cause trouble as far as our schedule in your mind? I know we just want to make sure
It
we
is a
do it.
busier time for me, right
August
before,
is?
yeah, right before, right before we have all those people into the campground. Easily the most people camping all year.
Oh.
And we've got a variance for it, so there's extra work that we have to do. But just to have a meeting, you know, in a shelter isn't gonna be that much.
Just to check, Bob, next meeting, we might have more people and get as far as preference of what would work better. So we don't have to schedule it immediately, but we got to think about whether we'd want to have it August or
One of
September.
the things that I'm just looking at is, you know, consider you've got a big event, you know, the park is used. And when you've got 15 sets of eyes versus 3 sets of eyes, you see different things. Well, maybe we should address this, or maybe we should address that. Well, that, geez, I never looked at it that way in perspective.
Well, we'll give flexibility, Jack. We won't make a decision right now, but we'll give flexibility as far as if it looks like it's too overwhelming, we won't do it. But it'd be a good idea, Bob. I agree with you on that we could see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. If we wanted to, you know, have something, in August, wouldn't be not undoable for me.
Next item then is the next meeting, July 1st. Is that a conflict for anyone, or are we okay on the July 1 meeting for the Parks, Tourism, and Economic Development Committee for 8:30 on July 1?
I'm fine.
Sounds good.
Fine.
Conflicts, Rebecca, as far as for July 1, 2000?
I think I may be remote, but no, I should be able to, I will be in attendance.
All right, just double checking so we have it. If there's no other items of business, anyone have anything additional? If not, we'll adjourn the meeting and we'll reconvene on July the 1st at 8:30 a.m. Thank you all.